Saloth Sar, who would eventually be known as Pol Pot, the leader of the Khmer Rouge, whose reign would have a profound and devastating impact on Cambodia's history, a regime responsible for one of the most brutal genocides of the 20th century. Saloth Sar, born on May 19, 1925, in Kampong Thom Province, Cambodia, grew up in a relatively affluent farming family. This comfortable upbringing allowed him to attend some of the most prestigious schools in Cambodia, which was then under French colonial rule. His early exposure to education in a colonized country laid the foundation for his later radical views. In 1949, Saloth Sar was awarded a scholarship to study in Paris, France. This move proved to be a turning point in his life. While in Paris, he was exposed to the growing influence of communist ideology that was sweeping through Europe in the aftermath of World War II. The intellectual environment of Paris, combined with the political atmosphere, deeply influenced Saloth Sar's thinking. He became increasingly drawn to the ideas of Marxism-Leninism, which he saw as a solution to the oppression and inequality he perceived in his homeland. In Paris, Saloth Sar became involved with the communist student movement inspired by the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and the national liberation struggles in Southeast Asia. His time in Paris exposed him to radical ideas that deeply influenced his political beliefs. When he returned to Cambodia in 1953, he joined the communist resistance movement under the auspices of the Workers' Party of Kampuchea that was fighting against French colonial rule. This movement, which sought to overthrow colonial powers and establish a communist state. In 1960, this party transformed into the Communist Party of Kampuchea, also known as the Khmer Rouge. Saloth Sar quickly rose to prominence within the organization, becoming one of its key leaders. By 1963, his influence had grown significantly, leading to his appointment as the General Secretary of the party, the highest position within the organization. It was during this time that he adopted the alias Pol Pot, a name that would later become infamous. Pol Pot's leadership marked a turning point for the Khmer Rouge, as his strategic decisions and ideological stance began to shape the party's direction. The Khmer Rouge began to gain widespread support among Cambodia's farmers and impoverished citizens who were disillusioned by the corrupt and pro-Western government led by Norodom Sihanouk. As the Vietnam War raged on, the Khmer Rouge's influence and strength grew, bolstered by substantial aid from North Vietnam and China. The rural population, frustrated with the ruling elite's inability to address their needs, increasingly turned to the Khmer Rouge, seeing them as a viable alternative to the existing power structure. The turmoil of the Vietnam War only added to the chaos, creating an environment in which the Khmer Rouge could thrive, ultimately setting the stage for their rise to power. On April 17, 1975, after a devastating civil war, the Khmer Rouge seized control of Phnom Penh, the capital of Cambodia, and overthrew the Khmer Republic government, led by Lon Nol. With this victory, Pol Pot, the leader of the Khmer Rouge, declared the establishment of Democratic Kampuchea, a new state founded on radical communist ideologies. The regime's ultimate aim was to create a self-sufficient agrarian society, free from all external influences and based on what they perceived as the purest form of Cambodian tradition, namely village life centered on agriculture. Under Pol Pot's leadership, the Khmer Rouge implemented extreme and brutal policies. One of their first actions was to forcibly evacuate all major cities, including Phnom Penh. The urban population, regardless of age or health, was driven into the countryside to toil in collective farms. These drastic measures were part of Pol Pot's vision to eliminate any traces of foreign influence in modernity. He believed that the ideal Cambodian society was rooted in the simplicity of rural life, as embodied by the peasantry. Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge's policies rapidly escalated into a catastrophic humanitarian disaster. The regime sought to eliminate all aspects of modern life, viewing them as remnants of colonialism or foreign influence. Currency, markets, education, religion, and extended families were abolished. The entire population was forced into grueling labor under brutal conditions, all in the pursuit of achieving self-sufficiency in food production. This extreme effort to reshape society and erase its history led to unimaginable suffering, as the regime's radical vision of an agrarian utopia brought devastation instead of the promised prosperity. Under the brutal regime of Pol Pot, any act of resistance or disobedience was deemed treasonous and punishable by death. Intellectuals, former government officials, teachers, doctors, and anyone suspected of having ties to the outside world or of being disloyal to the Khmer Rouge ideology were particularly targeted. The regime's relentless purges aimed to eliminate all potential threats to their power. It is estimated that between 1.7 and 2 million people perished due to executions, starvation, disease, and forced labor during Pol Pot's rule. The atmosphere of fear and oppression was pervasive, silencing dissent and forcing the population into submission under the regime. The brutality of Pol Pot's regime is starkly evident in the infamous Tuol Sleng prison, also known as S21, in Phnom Penh. This site became a grim symbol of the Khmer Rouge's reign of terror, where thousands of individuals were detained, tortured, and executed. The atrocities committed here were part of a larger, genocidal policy aimed at purging Cambodia of anyone deemed incompatible with Pol Pot's radical agrarian communist vision. Execution sites, such as the killing fields, are harrowing reminders of this dark chapter. In these fields, countless victims were buried in mass graves, reflecting the scale of the regime's ruthless attempts to eradicate perceived enemies and impose their ideological agenda. The horrors of Tuol Sleng and the killing fields stand as somber testaments to the extent of the regime's cruelty and the immense suffering endured by the Cambodian people during this period. The tensions between Cambodia and Vietnam reached a critical point in late 1978, when the Khmer Rouge launched an assault on Vietnamese border areas. In retaliation, Vietnam initiated a massive invasion of Cambodia in December 1978. By January 1979, Vietnamese forces had captured Phnom Penh and overthrown Pol Pot's government. This marked the end of the brutal Khmer Rouge regime. The invasion not only dismantled the oppressive rule of Pol Pot, but also began a new chapter in Cambodian history, setting the stage for the country's eventual recovery and reconstruction. The intervention by Vietnam was a significant turning point, ending a period of extreme violence and instability. After the fall of Phnom Penh, Pol Pot and the remaining Khmer Rouge forces retreated to remote areas along the Thai border, where they continued their guerrilla warfare against the new Cambodian government, which was supported by Vietnam. Pol Pot remained the leader of the Khmer Rouge until his resignation in 1985, though he continued to play a significant role in the movement until the end of his life. For years following his fall from power, Pol Pot lived in exile within the dense jungles of Cambodia. Despite many senior Khmer Rouge members being either captured or surrendering, Pol Pot managed to evade arrest until his final days. In 1997, amid internal power struggles within the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot was detained by his former allies and put on trial by his comrades. He was found guilty and sentenced to life under house arrest. Pol Pot died on April 15, 1998, near the Thai border, before he could be tried by an international court for his crimes. His death marked the end of one of the darkest chapters in Cambodian history, bringing it close to a period of intense suffering and turmoil for the nation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share this video with your friends to help spread the word. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.